The Catholic Church believes in the dignity of humans as they are made imago Dei. We've heard that phrase before, haven't we? That's going to come up a lot in all over the place. We can use it all over the show. Catholics are called, therefore, to eradicate poverty, to get rid of poverty, as it goes against loving one's neighbour. There's our nice little quote from Jesus. It goes against loving neighbour. If there is poverty, we need to deal with it. Therefore, we love our neighbour. We're respecting their human dignity. So, one way of doing this is supporting Catholic Charities, because billions of people, over 1 billion people, live in severe poverty, with thousands dying daily due to a lack of food, clean water, or access to medical care. People really are starving to death, and Christians have to do something about this. The Catholic Church teaches that the poorest in society should come first. This is known as, write this down, the preferential option for the poor. We prefer the poor, basically. That's very important. And that phrase comes up all the time in the Catechism and in various encyclicals, so you can write that down as a quote. In May 2020, Pope Francis stated that the Church's preferential option for the poor, the PFTP, though you need to write it out in full, is non-negotiable. The Church believes the poorest should be put first because their needs are the greatest. Working towards equality by helping the poor shows this belief in loving your neighbour, and it respects everybody's sanctity of life. So working to help the poor reflects this key Christian belief in loving your neighbour. Do you notice how we constantly need to make links, don't we? Constantly need to make links between what we're saying and then we're proving it. We're linking to with imago Dei. Working to help the poor reflects belief in loving your neighbour and in imago Dei. Okay, so now let's think of a specific example, because you might get a B-style question that says describe 2 ways in which CAFOD, or another charity, reflects the Catholic belief in the dignity of the human being. CAFOD stands for the Catholic Agency for Overseas Development. It's a charity that it's the official aid and development charity of the Catholic Church in England and Wales. CAFOD's charity work is mainly carried out in areas of extreme poverty in Africa, Latin America and the Middle East. It doesn't work so much in Britain, not its hands-on work, though it does fundraising and awareness raising here in Britain. But the actual is working with the extreme poor, those who are literally starving to death. Now, it's all about human dignity. Everybody is helped here. It doesn't discriminate, and this is, again, because of the belief in imago Dei. Each person is dignified, every human being. So it doesn't discriminate, between different people of different races, different religions. You don't have to be Christian to get the help from Catholic. It's inspired, of course, by the teachings of Jesus. Love your neighbour. There's that link again. And, of course, we also have the parable of the sheep and the goats, in which we find the corporal works of mercy. So whenever you mention human dignity, you can talk about corporal works of mercy, which comes from the parable of the sheep and goats. And whenever you mention that, give an example and put it in speech marks. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, give water to the thirsty, visit the sick. All of those little quotes are really, really helpful, especially for this topic. So, good. Parable of the sheep and goats. Now, the charity gives to those in need, and it teaches valuable skills. For example, in Zimbabwe, for over 30 years now, it's been providing tools, been providing seeds and training so that families are able to farm independently and earn their own living. So it's not just about giving, it's about teaching. And this independence reflects Catholic belief, again, in dignity, in human dignity. Because if you and it allows you to grow, to see your own value as a human. I'm not just receiving money from a rich person. No, I can grow. I have the dignity to work for myself here. What else can we say? So it also gives disaster relief, short-term aid and disaster relief for those who are experiencing a natural disaster, disease or war. For example, they've helped during the coronavirus pandemic, and again this reflects that Christian belief to love your neighbour. CAFOD shows love of neighbour by ensuring that people have the resources they need to survive. And again, this love your neighbour thing, this obviously links to the sheep and goats as we've talked about already. But there's another parable, isn't there? The parable of the Good Samaritan. Who is my neighbour? Everybody is your neighbour. Everybody is your neighbour. So we need to help everyone. Now, we're just going to look at an amazing quote by a fantastic saint and a fantastic bishop of Milan from back in their day. He said, "You are not making a gift of what is yours to the poor man through your charity, but you are giving him back what is his." What a nice little quote. So again, we've got quotes from the Bible, we've got quotes from the Catechism, and now we've got a quote from a saint as well. You're not making a gift of what is yours to the poor man, but you are giving him back what is his. So again, this is about human dignity. Imago Dei, through our charity work, it's not that we're being generous and, oh, look at me, I'm being good. No, we are reflecting our belief here in human dignity. We have to do this. It's not, as Pope Francis said again, there's our Pope quote, it's not negotiable. So we've talked about CAFOD and how it relates to all of these ideas. There's another charity as well that you might get asked on or that you can include. But first of all, let's also make a link with CAFOD and the common home stuff, Laudato Si, helping the environment. It tries to educate people on the causes of poverty, part of which is the climate crisis. So we've got, again, the link there with the book of Genesis, with stewardship, and with the idea of, the world is good and we are stewards and we need to care for it. So we've got another Bible link there with the kind of work CAFOD does. Now let's look at the other charity, the St. Vincent de Paul Society. SVP stands for St. Vincent de Paul Society. It's a charity. It was founded in Paris in 1833 by Frederick Ozanam. You don't need to know that, though, okay? I mean, it's nice information, but you won't need to remember that for the exam. And he was inspired by the wonderful St. Vincent de Paul, who helped the poor. He, again, obviously, as a Christian, he knows he has to do hands-on work with the poor, and that is indeed what the SVP does. It works in many countries, including our own, and it works at the parish level in churches. Many churches will have an SVP society. And again, like CAFOD, it believes, obviously, because it's Catholic, that everyone has dignity and is created imago Dei. So it works with all people, including the most marginalised, which is a nice short way of saying basically people who are on the edge, people on the margins, such as the elderly and the sick and those in prison. The charity believes that all people have the right to a good life, and its practical work in communities reflect this. And of course, those words, prison, sick, elderly, should remind us of the sheep and goats again, and the corporal works of mercy. Visit the sick, Jesus tells us we must do. Feed the hungry, clothe the naked. All of this practical support, hands-on, local, practical support. It comes straight from those corporal works of mercy. This is something Christians must do if we are to be judged worthy of heaven. Corporal, of course, means bodily, so practical ways to help people. All of this obviously reflects love your neighbour, straight from Jesus. It's inspired by the parable of the sheep and goats, as we've already said, to fulfil the needs of others. For example, let's give some examples now. The SVP will make visits to the sick and the housebound, and they'll visit care facilities, prisons and hospitals. They'll run centres where people can access food and clothing and clean clothing and washing facilities. It also helps people to access training and education to improve their job opportunities, which again is all about dignity, isn't it? Having that independence. It's not just, oh, I'm receiving it from you, aren't you good? Again, linked, like we said, with the Zimbabwean work that CAFOD do, it's helping people grow in dignity because they are made in the image and likeness of God. Always linked back to human dignity, which is linked back to imago Dei. Okay. We've got a final quote here from Jesus, again from the parable of the sheep and goats. I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you visited me. Boom! 10 minutes. Get it learnt.